The mirror's shadow. In the heart of the lush English countryside, there stood an old manor house named Ashford Hall. Its stone walls were covered in ivy, and its windows were veiled by curtains that had long since faded from their original elegance. Inside this ancient house, the air always seemed heavy with secrets, as though the very bricks and beams whispered tales of forgotten years. But no secret was as dark, or as deeply buried, as the one that resided within the hearts of the identical twins, Lila and Elara Ashford. The twins were born on a stormy night, their wells of life nearly drowned by the howl of the wind. From their earliest days, they were inseparable, a perfect reflection of each other. Both had the same raven black hair, pale skin, and striking violet eyes, a color so rare it was said to mark the line of Ashford women for generations. Yet despite their identical appearance, it soon became clear that the girls were as different in spirit as the moon is from the sun. Lila was gentle, kind-hearted, and soft-spoken. She loved to tend to the manor's gardens, her hands forever brushing against the fragrant blooms and ancient trees. Elara, on the other hand, was wild, mischievous, and possessed a temper that flared like fire. Her violet eyes often gleamed with a hunger for something more, something darker, than the quiet life they led at Ashford Hall. As the girls grew older, the differences between them became more pronounced. Lila had an almost ethereal presence, beloved by everyone she met for her kindness and grace. Elara, in contrast, was feared. Her wit was sharp and cruel, and she seemed to take pleasure in manipulating those around her. Still, the two sisters remained close, for even when Elara's darkness surfaced, Lila's light seemed to pull her back from the edge of true wickedness. But there was one thing Elara coveted above all else, Lila's charm. No matter how hard Elara tried to win the love and admiration of others, it was always Lila they favored. In time, this sparked a bitter resentment in Elara's heart. It festered there, a shadow growing ever darker within her. One day, when the girls were 16, their mother, Lady Evelyn Ashford, fell gravely ill. As her health declined, she summoned her daughters to her bedside, telling them the story of an ancient family heirloom, a mirror, hidden away in the attic of Ashford Hall. The mirror, she said, was no ordinary glass, but a relic of old magic. It was said to reflect not only one's appearance but the true nature of their soul. Beware of it, Lady Evelyn whispered with her dying breath. It shows more than you know. Promise me, my girls, that you will never look into the mirror's depths. Lila, dutiful and pure-hearted, made the promise without hesitation. But Elara's curiosity was piqued. The idea of a mirror that could reveal one's true nature intrigued her, and a dangerous thought bloomed in her mind. Not long after their mother's death, Elara's obsession with the mirror grew. She could not shake the feeling that the mirror might offer her the key to understanding why Lila was so beloved and she was not. So, one stormy night, much like the one on which they were born, Elara crept through the darkened halls of Ashford Hall and made her way to the attic.
The mirror was tucked away beneath a heavy, dust-covered cloth, forgotten in a corner of the attic. Elara's hands trembled with anticipation as she pulled the cloth away, revealing a tall, ornate frame of blackened silver. The surface of the glass was so polished it seemed like a pool of liquid mercury. Elara's reflection stared back at her, identical to her sister's in every way. For a long moment, she hesitated. But her resentment, her desire to be more than just Lila's shadow, pushed her forward. Slowly, she leaned closer, her breath fogging the surface of the glass. As she gazed deeper into the mirror, the reflection shifted. At first, it was subtle, a flicker in the background, a shadow where there should be none. Then, slowly, her reflection smiled, though Elara herself had not moved. The smile was cruel, twisted. Elara's heart pounded as the reflection's hand reached out, pressing against the inside of the glass. Elara, the reflection whispered, though no sound escaped the glass. Do you want what she has? Do you want to be loved, cherished, adored as she is? Elara swallowed, her mouth dry. Yes, she breathed. The reflection's eyes glinted with malice. "Then let me in." Without warning, the glass rippled like water. A cold, terrible wind swept through the attic, snuffing out the candles Elara had brought with her. Before she could move, the mirror's surface reached out and wrapped around her like a cloak of shadow, pulling her into its depths. Elara screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the darkness. When she opened her eyes, she was standing back in the attic. But something was wrong. She felt different, stronger. A wicked grin spread across her face as she looked into the mirror. Her reflection, no longer identical to Lila, was now a twisted version of herself, eyes glowing with dark power. The reflection was no longer a prisoner of the glass. It had taken over, and the real Elara was lost somewhere deep within. In the days that followed, Lila noticed the change in her sister. Elara had always been sharp-tongued and cruel at times, but now there was something truly malevolent about her. Her eyes gleamed with a hunger that had never been there before, and she seemed to revel in causing pain and discord. Rumors spread through the village that strange things were happening at Ashford Hall, crops withered, animals went missing, and people began to avoid the house altogether. Lila, ever trusting, tried to reason with her sister. "Elara," she said one evening as they sat by the fire, "something is wrong. You're not yourself. Please, tell me what's happened." Elara's lips curled into a cold smile. "I'm more myself than I've ever been, dear sister. You're the one who doesn't understand." Lila shivered at the malice in her sister's voice. She could feel the darkness that had taken root in Elara, but she didn't know how to reach her. Desperate, she turned to the one thing she had always avoided, the mirror in the attic.
Late one night, when Elara was out causing mischief in the village, Lila stole up to the attic. The mirror stood exactly as her mother had described it, its surface gleaming ominously in the dim light of her candle. As she approached, her reflection stared back at her, innocent and pure. But then, just as it had for Elara, the reflection shifted. Lila gasped as the shadowy version of herself smiled cruelly from the glass. "You're too late," the reflection whispered. "She's already mine." Lila stepped back in horror. The mirror pulsed with dark energy, and for the first time, she realized the full weight of her mother's warning. Elara had made a terrible mistake, and now she was lost to the darkness. But Lila wasn't willing to give up on her sister. Determined to save Elara, Lila spent the following days researching old family journals, learning about the mirror's magic. She discovered that the mirror had been crafted centuries ago by a sorcerer who sought to trap the souls of those who were consumed by envy and ambition. It offered power, but at a terrible price, the loss of one's soul to the shadow within. As the days passed, Elara grew more dangerous. She no longer hid her dark nature, and strange occurrences plagued the manor. Objects moved on their own, shadows seemed to flicker with life, and the very air in Ashford Hall grew thick with malice. Lila knew time was running out. Armed with the knowledge from her ancestors' writings, she confronted her sister one final time. "Elara, please," Lila begged, standing before the mirror in the attic. "Let me help you. I know you're still in there." But the thing wearing Elara's face only laughed, a sound devoid of any warmth. "You think you can save me? You were always so naive, Lila. This is who I've always been. The mirror just helped me see it." Desperate, Lila grabbed the silver dagger she had found in the family archives, a weapon forged to break the mirror's curse. With trembling hands, she raised it toward the glass. "Elara," she whispered, tears streaming down her face.
"I'm sorry."
With one swift motion, she plunged the dagger into the heart of the mirror. The glass shattered with a deafening scream, shards flying in every direction as a torrent of dark energy erupted from the frame. Lila was thrown back, her body hitting the ground hard. When the dust settled, Lila opened her eyes to find Elara lying on the floor beside her, unconscious. The mirror was destroyed, its dark magic gone. Lila crawled to her sister's side, cradling her head in her lap. "Elara," she whispered. Slowly, Elara's eyes fluttered open. For a brief moment, Lila saw the sister she had always known, her violet eyes filled with confusion and pain. But then, the darkness returned, a shadow passing over her face.
Sister, you should have let me be.
Elara hissed, her voice no longer her own. With a final, bitter smile, she closed her eyes, her body going still. Lila wept for her sister, knowing that the Elara she had loved was truly gone. The mirror had taken her, leaving behind only a hollow shell. And though the mirror was shattered, its dark legacy lived on in the halls of Ashford Hall, where the wind still whispered secrets, and shadows flickered in the corners, forever haunted by the wicked twin who had chosen darkness over light.